I don't remember the name of the bakery, but I remember the smell. Sweet, buttery, golden brown loaves lined up behind a dusty glass window. It was a place I'd passed every morning on my way to the market, just before sunrise, when the air was cool and the streets hadn't yet been trampled by the day's footsteps. That morning my stomach hurt so bad it felt like someone had tied a rope around it and pulled. I had no coins. I had no shame left either. I waited for the baker to look away. He was busy shouting at someone in the alley. I darted inside, snatched a half-burned loaf from the back tray and ran like hell. I heard the shouting, the angry footsteps behind me, and then, bam! I slipped on a plastic sheet and landed face first into a puddle. The bread went flying. My ribs stung. Two men grabbed me by the collar, one kicking my side while the other searched my pockets. There was nothing there but a photo of my grandmother and me. Faded, wrinkled, and the only thing I kept safe. "Stealing again, rat boy," one of them spat. "Let him go," someone said behind them. Calm, cool voice. A foreign voice. I turned my head slowly, half-dazed. A man stood in the shadow of a shop awning, wearing a dark coat, with an old leather bag in hand. He stepped forward. The baker's men hesitated. "This isn't your business, foreigner." "It is now," the man said. He pulled out some notes and handed them over. "For the bread. And for your trouble." They muttered and left, kicking a bottle in frustration. I sat up, spitting out mud. The man handed me the loaf. Still warm. Still mine. "What's your name?" he asked. "Elian," I said, wiping my mouth with the back of my hand. "Elian," he nodded. "You've got sharp eyes. And quick feet. That's a start." He dropped a card in my lap and walked away. My life in the hole. People called it the hole. A slum curled up on the edge of Manila's port, right beside broken fishing boats and endless containers. The place smelled of rust, salt, and too many people. I lived there with my grandmother, Lola Cinta. She was my entire world. She had a soft voice, brittle fingers, and stories that filled every crack in the walls. She had been a schoolteacher once, back when her husband was alive, back when there was money, respect, and dreams. Now her legs didn't move. Diabetes had taken them slowly, cruelly. She lay on a bamboo bed with a stack of pillows behind her, teaching me with whatever scraps of books I brought back from garbage bins or old stalls. "Education is your ticket," she'd say. "Not money. Not luck. Knowledge." I didn't go to school. We couldn't afford the uniform, let alone the fees. But I learned. God, I learned. I read everything I could find. Ripped newspapers, comic books, instruction manuals, shampoo bottles, you name it. I could read. I could write. I could fix radios. Sometimes I helped neighbors reconnect wires, charge batteries, or find short circuits. But we were always one cough away from disaster. One infection away from burial. The mysterious stranger. The card that stranger gave me? I didn't touch it for 2 days. I thought it was fake, or cursed. But on the third day, when Lola Cinta's fever returned and I had no money for paracetamol, I took it out. The name was strange, Leo Hammond. Below it, Volunteer Program Tech Lab Futures. I walked across the city barefoot to find the address. A building on the edge of downtown. Clean, quiet, and full of kids my age sitting in front of computers. A lady at the front desk eyed me suspiciously. "I was told to come by. Leo Hammond?" She picked up a phone, murmured something, and told me to wait. 10 minutes later, the man from the alley walked in. "You showed up," he said. He looked pleased. "Good. A whole new world." That day changed my life. Tech Lab Futures was a non-profit run by international volunteers. They taught coding, math, languages. Everything you didn't learn on the street. Leo got me into their free evening batch. I'd come in after selling scrap during the day. At first, I didn't understand anything. What was HTML? What's a loop? What's Python? But then it clicked. My brain was like a sponge that had been waiting for water. I stayed late every night, watched videos on an old phone Leo gave me, practiced at internet cafes by sneaking in and offering to clean the floors in exchange for 30 minutes of time. In 3 months, I built my first website. In 6 months, I was teaching other kids. Loss and fire. One night, I came home to find smoke in the air. People were screaming. Fire had started in one of the shacks and spread like a hungry demon. I ran into the hole, coughing, eyes burning. My shack was gone. Ashes. Nothing left. They said Lola Cinta had been asleep when the flames came. I collapsed to the ground. A part of me died that night. Leo found me 2 days later, curled up under a broken bridge. I have nothing left, I said. You have knowledge, he said quietly. And you have choice. Come with me. The opportunity. Leo arranged a scholarship with a partner university in Singapore. A donor had been impressed with a small logistics app one built for mapping medical supply pickups in the slums. I was 17 when I boarded a plane for the first time. I wore second-hand shoes and carried a backpack with one pair of clothes. I cried when I saw my name on the student ID, Elian Reyes, computer engineering. No one in my bloodline had ever left the country or touched a university gate. I wasn't just learning now. I was building. I was becoming. Singapore was a different planet. Everything was clean, fast, cold, organized. I walked through the airport blinking like a man who had never seen glass sparkle. I didn't understand the language signs. The air smelled of flowers and iron. People didn't push. They didn't shout. No one stared. But I did. At everything. My first night at the dormitory was the loneliest night of my life. I stared at the ceiling and held the photo of Lola Cinta. I made it, Lola, I whispered. But I don't know what to do next. Stranger in the mirror. The classroom was huge. Clean walls. Projectors. Students with perfect English and laptops that cost more than anything I had ever touched. I didn't belong. I barely understood the teachers. Their words were fast, technical, full of references I didn't know. My classmates spoke in slang and idioms I couldn't follow. They wore designer clothes. They laughed in groups. I was invisible. Or forgettable. But every evening I went to the computer lab and stayed there until they kicked me out. I watched tutorials. I coded quietly. Slowly I began to improve. Then came the assignment that changed everything. The birth of StreetNet. We were asked to develop a tech prototype solving a real-world problem. Most teams worked on smart homes, virtual assistants, or fitness apps. I built a simple mobile tool that tracked supply drop-offs in high-risk urban zones. Like my old slum. It used basic GPS, coded in Python and JavaScript, and stored data in cloud sheets. I called it StreetNet. My professor looked at it with raised eyebrows. This could work in real life. I didn't expect more. But 2 weeks later he forwarded my project to a local startup challenge. And somehow I won. The spotlight. It felt like the world opened its eyes and noticed me for the first time. News outlets wrote, "Slum boy builds app to help the streets he left behind." People messaged from NGOs, local government offices, even hospitals in India and the Philippines. A startup incubator offered me a spot. They gave me seed money. Not much. But to me, it was everything. I cried in a bathroom stall after signing the paperwork. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was building something real. Rise and burn. With the seed money, I hired 2 interns. Both of them classmates. One of them, Nico, was charming, smooth-talking, and way more confident than I was. He helped me pitch StreetNet to new investors. We grew fast. Too fast. A local disaster relief group adopted our app. We got into talks with the government. Money started coming in. For the first time, I had an office. A real one. With glass doors, chairs that spun, and coffee that didn't come from street stalls. But I was too trusting. One night, while reviewing our accounts, I noticed a withdrawal I didn't authorize. Then 2. Then 5. Nico had redirected project funds into a shell company. When I confronted him, he just laughed. You think they invested because of your talent? No, alien. They invested because of me. I made this real. You're just a sob story for the press. Broken. The betrayal hit like a knife. Our board panicked. Investors pulled out. StreetNet was frozen. We were audited. The app was removed from all platforms until cleared. I sat alone in that office for hours. Everything I'd built was collapsing again. Just like the fire. Just like the bread. Letter from the past. That night I remembered something. In the back pocket of my worn bag, folded and sealed in plastic, was a letter. Lola Cinta had given it to me before I left. I hadn't read it. I had been too scared. Hands shaking, I opened it. Alien, I don't know if I'll be alive to see who you become. But I know what you're made of. When others steal from you, you give more. When they laugh, you listen. Build your empire. But build it with heart. Because money built without meaning turns to dust. I'm already proud of you. Lola. I wept like a child. The rebuild. I refused to quit. I recorded a video. Simple. Raw. I told the truth. About the betrayal, the slum, the app, and what it meant. It went viral. Hundreds of people donated to restart StreetNet. A philanthropist from the US offered legal help. I rewrote the code, rebuilt the platform from scratch, and hired from the communities we aimed to help. This time I kept control. Within a year, StreetNet 2.0 launched globally. In 2 years, it powered supply routes across 30 cities. In 3 years, it integrated with the UN's urban relief system. And I became a millionaire. Then a multimillionaire. New eyes. I traveled back to Manila with a suitcase full of books, laptops, and scholarship forms. The whole wasn't the same. Some parts had been rebuilt. Others remained broken. I found a quiet space, planted a flag, and opened the Lola Cinta Learning Center. A school for kids like me. Kids who were hungry to learn but never had the chance. I watched their eyes light up when they touched a computer for the first time. I saw myself in them. And I finally felt whole. Success has a strange sound. It doesn't roar. It doesn't sing. It hums. Quiet, constant, like a machine that never turns off. I lived in that hum for a while. After rebuilding StreetNet, offers started coming in from all over the world. Africa, South America, Eastern Europe. Everyone wanted a piece of the slum-born savior. I was flown to conferences. I gave TED Talks. I met presidents, CEOs, actors. They all smiled. They all said the same thing, you're an inspiration. But deep down, I wasn't sure what I had become. The price of the crown. With scale came pressure. StreetNet grew beyond disaster relief. We launched SafeFlow, a blockchain system for transparent aid distribution. Then MicroTrack, a smart logistics platform for medical supply chains in conflict zones. Investors poured money into us. I was told to expand faster. Double your workforce. Triple your revenue. Go global or get left behind. I raised over $200 million in funding. I became CEO of a company valued at $3.4 billion. But something was changing. The more we grew, the further I felt from the mission. My boardroom had 10 screens but not one face I recognized from my early days. The code I once wrote by hand? Now buried under a team of 300 engineers I'd never met. Whispers of the past. One night, after a shareholder gala in London, I sat by the hotel window staring down at the Thames. I thought of Lola, of the fire, of the boy stealing bread. That's when I got an email. Subject: Your grandmother lied. I almost deleted it, but something told me not to. The message had no name, just an attachment. An old birth certificate. My mother's. But under father, it didn't say unknown like I had always believed. It said, Sebastian de la Vega. A hidden bloodline. I couldn't believe it. De la Vega was a name I'd only heard in newspapers. An old money business family in Spain, involved in shipping, real estate, and global finance. Billionaires for generations. I did what any rational man would do. I flew to Madrid. The door that opened slowly. It took weeks of silence before I was allowed to meet Carmen de la Vega, the matriarch. She was sharp-eyed, dressed in all black, and guarded like a fortress. You say you are Elian Reyes. Son of Clara Reyes, my son's affair, she said without flinching. I don't want your money, I said. I just want the truth. She studied me for a long time. Then she stood and walked to a drawer. She handed me a photo. My mother, pregnant, standing beside a man with kind eyes and wavy dark hair. My son, she said softly. He died before you were born. A legacy refused and accepted. They offered me a share in the family business. I refused. But I did ask one thing, to visit the shipyards where my father once worked. There, I found his journals. He wrote about wanting to start a relief foundation. About building tools to serve the poor. He had never known I existed. But somehow I was walking the road he had dreamed of. Full circle, the billion-dollar plan. Back in Singapore, I called a meeting. I announced I was stepping down as CEO. Gasp. Confusion. Headlines. I had no interest in chasing numbers anymore. Instead, I created the Reyes Foundation using half my personal wealth. Nearly $1.2 billion. To build learning centers, microloan networks, and food tech labs across underserved regions. And I gave full rights of StreetNet's core code to be open source. People thought I was crazy. But I wasn't chasing the world anymore. I was serving it. The final visit. 5 years later, I visited the slum again. The whole had become a community now. Brick houses, street lights, Wi-Fi. At the edge of it stood a young boy trying to hack into an ATM using a broken tablet. His face was thin, his hands calloused. I walked up to him and said, "Ever heard of Python?" He looked startled. What? I smiled. Come with me. I got a laptop. And a story. You don't need to be born in the light to shine. You just need to refuse to stay in the dark. Some people believe life is a race. I don't anymore. For me, it became a journey. A long, twisting path where I had to lose everything. Twice. Before I truly understood what mattered. I no longer chased headlines. I no longer took photos with politicians. I stopped accepting awards unless I could give the microphone to someone else. I became a teacher again. Not in a school, but in the streets, villages, and forgotten places. The network of hope. The Reyes Foundation grew faster than I expected. But not because of me. Because of people like Fatima, a girl from Kenya who used our grant to build a solar-powered classroom. Because of Lucas, a teenager from Brazil who designed a flood response chatbot in a favela using our open-source code. Because of Tashi, an ex-monk from Bhutan who translated our materials into 5 Himalayan dialects so children in the mountains could learn too. They were better than me. Smarter. Braver. Hungrier. I was just the match. They were the flame. My greatest project. Somewhere around my 35th birthday, I started working on a secret plan. It wasn't a product. It wasn't a platform. It was a village. Not a fake media village. Not a PR stunt. A real village. Designed with dignity. Homes built from sustainable bricks. Free school. Community-owned solar energy. Open internet. Clean water. We called it Sinta, in honor of the woman who had raised me when the world had turned its back. We opened the gates on February 8th. The same day she died many years ago. That morning I walked into the central courtyard and a group of children ran up to me barefoot, laughing. One girl held out a drawing, an old lady with silver hair, sitting beneath a mango tree, reading a book to a boy. I sat on the ground and cried. The final twist. Years later, when I thought my life had nothing more to surprise me, I received a letter. It was from Nico. The man who betrayed me. The man who almost destroyed StreetNet. He was in prison. The letter wasn't long. I watched your interviews. I saw what you did. I was wrong. You built something I tried to steal because I didn't believe I could build anything myself. I'm sorry, Elian. I hope one day I can teach kids like you do. I stared at the letter for a long time. Then I picked up a pen. You can start by teaching them what not to do. The family I found. I never married in my 30s. Too busy. Too broken. Too scared. But life once again had other plans. At a global education summit in Seoul, I met a woman named Amira. She was half Lebanese, half Japanese, and had grown up designing refugee learning systems in war zones. She didn't know who I was. She didn't care. She only asked, "What books did you read as a child?" We stayed up talking until sunrise. 2 years later we got married. Quiet ceremony. No media. Just our closest friends and the kids from the village of Sinta. Fatherhood. We had one child. A boy. We named him Leo. Not just after my friend, the man who pulled me out of the mud, but after the lion I had to become. One night, when Leo was 5, he asked me, "Papa, were you always rich?" I looked into his eyes filled with safety and wonder. Luxuries I never had. "No," I said. "I was poor. Very poor." "Then how did you become rich?" I paused. And I told him the truth. I became rich the day I decided to never steal, never beg, and never quit. The end that never ends. I sometimes walk alone through the cities I once feared. New York, Dubai, Tokyo. I pass glass buildings and flashing screens that show my name. And I smile. Not because I built an empire, but because I proved that even a boy from a burning slum with no money, no connections, and nothing but a dream can rise. Not by taking, but by giving. Not by running, but by standing up. Again and again. Rags are not the end of a story. They are the beginning of the thread. And when stitched with fire, faith, and fight, they become the cloak of a king. The end.